This is Katie with Homeschool Chat, and today is a part 2 of to start the homeschool year. Okay, I'm going to go over a review of what we talked about last week. So last week, we talked about the fact that, well, first I wanted to go over that I'm doing an overview, not complete lists of things. So I might leave a few things out. I'm just kind of grabbing information from my head. And also, I wanted to say that if you are part of a homeschool co-op, or if you are part of an online school program, homeschool program, this probably won't benefit you, because those two programs are pretty structured, and those programs will have their own rules. So, that being said, last week we talked about researching grade requirements for each grade. We talked about deciding which classes that you want to teach your student for the year. We talked about how you would teach, or what curriculum that you would use for your class, or for each class, for each student. And we talked about realistic goals. So today we're going to talk about, I have 3 points. The first one being teaching the class in different ways. So the structure of the class. One of the things that makes a class fun and for a child, and also motivates children, is an attention getter. So you may teach with a textbook, but you may have something that you like to do. For instance, let's say that there is an exercise that's at the end of the chapter. They're usually questions. Maybe there's an exercise that you can use where you can verbally give the questions, and if the student answers it right, they get money or something. Depends on the kid, depends on the grade. I did that for high school students. I had 2 kids in the same class, and I would ask them the questions orally, and when they would get it right, they would get money. So they were very motivated, and they were also very competitive, so it worked out really well. That's one way to structure a class, or to get an attention getter. Also, workbooks can be fun. Workbooks can also be boring. And doing the whole day with all of the subjects in workbook form can be boring. You'd have to look at your child, watch your child, and see. You'll be able to tell right away, because if they like the workbook, it's like they eat it up. They just go through the workbook really quickly, and they finish it, and they're happy, and they want more. And so just watch your child for if the workbook is exciting enough. Let's see, what are other things that you can do? You can structure your class with projects throughout. You can structure your classes as a big project, and the end being what you would consider your final. I taught a science class where the end of the class, the child made a board game out of the project. That was also for a high school class, but you can do it for any grade. You just have to structure it in a way that the child will be able to complete the project. You can do apps, you can do textbooks, you can do workbooks. I would suggest that you vary what you do for each class, because if you're only doing your classes on apps, If you're only doing your classes through workbooks, sometimes that gets very boring and repetitive, and you may lose the interest of your child. And if you like workbooks and you want to get them, you want to use them all the way through as long as you can, then you want that workbook to stay interesting to the child. And also, really check out those workbooks, because some are interesting and fun and some bore me. So really check those things. Also textbooks, everything. Check everything out. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about is how much time you, the teacher, want to put into each class. So the average amount of classes per school day, I believe for public school, is 6 classes per day. That would be about 6 hours. Then what usually happens is the student does the work and then the teacher corrects the papers afterwards. You need to figure out as a teacher what you want to do. If you like the idea of making up your own curriculum, be realistic. You're going to spend your summers making up your curriculum. That's time. Do you have that time? Do you have that privacy, I guess you'd say? You can have your children all around while you're working on the curriculum, but you also have to be able to focus a little bit on what you do if you're going to make up your own curriculum. Do you want to correct at night or after the school day is done? If you don't, then think about alternatives. Alternatives would be you and your child correcting together during the class. And then ask yourself, is that realistic? Because if you have 3 or 4 children and you're correcting with each child during the day for each subject, then that might actually kind of time crash into your teaching. And you can't be more than one person at a time, even though we would all like to be more than one person at a time. So think about that. Think about the fact that you have options. If you find a class that you think is really fun and that your children will think it's really fun, you may want to add a 7th class on. You may not want to structure your classes hourly. For instance, 7 to 8 is reading. Well, maybe what you want to do is say at 7 o'clock, my children get up and get ready, and then here is a list of things they need to complete for the day. You can structure it that way. You structure it the way it works for your lifestyle. I think that is about, one more thing. The school year for public school, I think I counted at one time, there were about 120 teaching days in public school. You can go over it. I know the state doesn't want you to really go under it, but with homeschool you can make some days educational days even though they're not structured. So let's say you have a 120 day school year and you go to the zoo one day. That's a field trip, and that could be considered one of your school days. Let's say that you go to the beach for 3 days. You can make the ocean a sciencey thing or an art thing, and it also can become a field trip. Think about those things. Also, if you're really interested in something, you have a curriculum that you know is going to take you more than 120 days to complete, or it would be 120 hours, right? Because each class averaged out throughout the year, each class would be an hour a day. 120 days is 120 hours. Let's say that you have a book that you want to complete and you know it's going to take more than 120 hours. You can extend it if you want to. You're the teacher, you're the administrator. So think about all of these things. Write it down, write down what you want to do for each student and make it work for you. Be creative. And don't be afraid. You can change it at any time. If it's not working for you, don't keep going with it. Stop and reassess and make it work for you. Make it work for your student. Well, that's about all that I have for today. So have a blessed day. Bye.